A Vatican official says the U.S. is a model for the world for how strict training programs and vigilance can curb clergy sex abuse.
The best practices do work, have an effect. But there is a cost to it. The cost is you do it rigorously, you do it relentlessly, and you do it with all consequences.
Father Hans Zoellner is a psychologist and a member of the Pope's Commission on Protecting Minors. He says since 2002, the number of abuse cases has plummeted. Zoellner also points out in the Pennsylvania grand jury report that only 3 of the more than 300 incidents took place after 2002. Vatican correspondent Juliet Lindley joins us from Rome. Juliet, what was Father Zoellner's message today?
Lauren, Zoellner says the church has learned from its mistakes and is continuing to do so despite the dire situation. Zoellner advises the Pope, as we know, on preventing abuse. He says the church has lost an unquantifiable amount of credibility and that, quote, faith in the church is at zero, particularly in countries like Ireland and Australia. With regard to the United States, now, Lauren, Zoellner says the victims need to be put at the center of the picture. They need to be listened to and taken care of. A strict screening process and rigorous training at seminaries is needed, he says, and clear guidelines for singling out abusive priests do work with the appropriate funds and tools. Now, in less affluent countries, Zoellner says, unfortunately, prevention is harder because of a lack of human and financial resources. But his job does take him all over the world, and his goal, he says, is to help eliminate abuse even in the poorest communities, Lauren.
The Pope has convened a special meeting of the heads of bishops' conferences from around the world on abuse. How is Father Zoellner going to be involved? Did he make any mention of the need to adapt church law to deal effectively with clergy sex abuse?
Lauren, Father Zoellner says the Vatican is in the very initial stages of planning that meeting in February. He tells journalists he's definitely going to be very involved, and the event might even be called a turning point for the church. He couldn't give us any further details, although we pressed him on them on what his role will be. Whereas regarding canon law, he gave far more input, saying that he sees several aspects that urgently need to be changed in order to deal effectively with clergy abuse. Lauren, for instance, he focused on the need to define the rights of both the alleged victims and the alleged abusers.
Juliet, I understand a Polish bishop today has apologized to clergy sex abuse victims in his diocese in part of the Warsaw province.
Lauren, that could be the case. Bishop Romuald Kamiński not only apologized to abuse survivors, he also said that cases have been opened against a dozen priests and steps are being taken to win back people's trust. Now, later this year, Poland's church leaders are due to publish a document addressing child abuse and ways to prevent it. And as you mentioned, Pope Francis just this week, he spoke candidly about young people's disappointment in the sex scandals that have traumatized the Catholic Church and how urgent change is needed to keep future generations in the church, Lauren.
Juliet Lindley, EWTN News Nightly Vatican correspondent.
Thank you, Lauren.